Today on July 6th, Archangel Michael is calling out to you. He's seen what's coming and can't keep you safe if you keep turning away from his voice. He can't shield you if you won't listen. The heavens tremble today, not with fear, but urgency. This is not a day like any other. On July 6th, a cry has gone forth from the realm of light, echoing through the veil that separates the seen from the unseen. Archangel Michael, the mighty warrior of God, is calling your name, not softly, but with commanding power. His voice pierces the fog around your life, trying to reach the place you keep protected, hidden, distracted. You've heard whispers before. You felt the chills on your spine, the restless stirring in your chest, the unease before certain decisions. That was him. And now, he's no longer whispering. He's shouting. You've walked this path thinking time was your ally, but time has started to turn. Michael has seen what's coming, the consequence of your indecision, the storm crafted not by the skies but by choices left unhealed, by warnings ignored. This is not judgment. It is rescue. But rescue requires your response. If you keep silencing that inner call, if you keep rationalizing the intuition away, then you walk beyond his shield. You were never meant to fight this battle alone. That is why he's reaching out now, in this hour, with urgency not born from fear, but from divine foresight. There is a line in the sand today. On one side, divine protection, alignment, deliverance from the sabotage forming behind your back. On the other, blindness, delay, and unnecessary defeat. You are not alone, but you must choose to listen. Archangel Michael will not force your hand, but he will shake the heavens to warn you. He's watched you hesitate long enough. Today, he draws his sword not in battle, but in warning. A final cry for your attention. What you do next may define everything that follows. So listen now. Don't scroll past this. Don't numb out. Today, July 6th, is not another date on a calendar. It's your crossroad. Type I'm chosen to get the blessing 6060. You didn't just arrive at this moment by accident. Every late night stirring, every unexpected delay, every person who suddenly exited your life without warning, none of it was random. You call them coincidences, but Michael calls them alarms. From the highest realm, he has watched the timelines unfold. He has seen where your heart gets pulled, how your discernment has been clouded by what seems urgent instead of what's truly important. You were being guided gently, until now. Now the guidance comes with fire. Because the threat you're walking toward is cloaked in light, disguised as opportunity, but seated in deception. Michael's protection isn't passive, it's strategic. He guards the front lines of your life, but he cannot defend what you willingly walk into. His sword flashes for you when you align with heaven's frequency, but when you silence that frequency, when you drown it in noise, anxiety, or stubborn pride, his shield weakens, not by his power, but by your permission. He is calling today because the next step you're about to take may seem harmless, even hopeful, but it is soaked in spiritual consequence. The connection you're considering reopening. The place you're thinking of returning to. The door you're too curious to close for good. That's where it hides. The danger isn't just external, it's spiritual. This isn't just about a bad day, a missed opportunity, or an unexpected argument. This is warfare over your destiny. The enemy doesn't want your money, your career, or your attention. He wants your alignment. Because when your soul is distracted, your purpose becomes delayed. Archangel Michael has watched long enough. On this day, July 6th, he has been authorized to interrupt. That unease you feel right now, that isn't fear. That's heaven's interruption. A divine hand reaching through time to snatch you out of a collapse that hasn't happened yet, but will, unless you act now. Type I am protected to get the blessing 7171. You've prayed for guidance, but then ignored the answer when it didn't look like what you expected. You thought God's voice would always feel peaceful, gentle, affirming. But sometimes, divine voices come roaring, because your peace is about to be stolen, and you didn't see it coming. That person who re-entered your life with all the right words but none of the right spirit. That opportunity that flatters your ego but crushes your peace. Michael sees through it all. And today, he's standing in your way, not as an obstacle, but as a guard. If you bulldoze through him, don't say heaven didn't warn you. You've been given chances before. Remember the last time you didn't listen. The last time you said, it's probably nothing, and you paid the price with tears, regret, or sleepless nights. This is different, but also not. The pattern is repeating. And Michael knows if you don't break it now, you'll normalize the pain that follows. He isn't here to frighten you, he's here to realign you. This is love in armor. A divine being who has seen what's planned against you and refuses to stay silent. Not this time. Not again. Not when so much is hanging in the balance. Type I am rising to get blessing 5678. There's still time. Not much, but enough. Time to pause before you text them back. Time to breathe before you make that deal. Time to turn your face to the light before darkness dresses itself in charm and familiarity. Michael is calling not just to warn you but to teach you. He wants to train your hearing again, so that next time you'll know the difference between divine delay and demonic distraction, between opportunity and trap, between presence and performance. His sword isn't raised in anger, it's raised in intercession. A heavenly protest against the compromise you've been seduced into entertaining. Again, this is a holy interruption. Your calendar didn't predict it. Your routine wasn't prepared for it. But your spirit has known for days. Something has been trying to reach you. A discomfort you couldn't explain. A hesitation that made no sense. That was him. That was Michael. And now, he's no longer content to wait for your attention. Today is a crossroads, perhaps the most important one in the season of your life. If you will listen now, truly listen, everything can shift. What could have wounded you will pass by. What was sent to destroy you will collapse before it touches you. But it requires a choice. Now, type I am listening to receive the blessing 8282. That door you're tempted to open again, the one you swore was shut, isn't just a decision. It's a spiritual agreement. Michael sees the figure behind it. Not the one with the smile and familiar tone, but the shadow they carry. The one you can't perceive with natural sight. On July 6, that presence draws nearer. It doesn't bang or shout. It softly manipulates. It takes the form of kindness, timing, nostalgia, anything that weakens your discernment. And Michael, who stands armored in truth, is already raising his sword in front of that path. But he cannot shield you if you dismiss his voice as noise. He knows the danger because he fought it before you were even aware of it. What you think is just another invitation may actually be your test. And what looks like reconciliation could be spiritual sabotage. You've grown wiser, yes. But there's a part of you that still craves resolution from the wrong place. That part is vulnerable. That part is where the enemy aims. Michael isn't condemning you. He's guarding the hole in your armor, the one that opens when you long for validation more than protection. This message didn't find you by accident. Heaven timed it to intercept what's approaching. This deceiver does not wear horns. They wear your language. They know your rhythm. They mirror your pain so well that you might think they've healed too. But Michael sees the spirit hitching a ride on their words. He sees the agenda hiding in their friendliness. And today, July 6th, he is shouting because the moment of approach draws close. There is still time to prepare, but not forever. The longer you entertain the illusion, the harder it becomes to break the grip. Michael stands between you and the disguised wound. Will you let him? Type I am shielded to get the blessing 4949. You have prayed for protection, not realizing that sometimes protection looks like disconnection. You've begged for peace, but when heaven tries to sever the ties that steal it, you hesitate. Why? Because you're still waiting for closure from people who were never sent to complete you. Michael isn't simply asking you to say no, he's asking you to let go. What you hold in your hand is not your future. It's your delay. The comfort you cling to is masking your collapse. And if you keep reaching for what's familiar, you'll miss what's divine. That's why today's call feels different. It's not gentle. It's urgent. Archangel Michael is roaring in the spirit because your window is narrow. It doesn't mean you're out of time. It means your moment requires maturity. You are being invited into divine responsibility. You cannot keep praying for elevation while defending the weight that keeps you grounded. What you entertain now determines what you inherit next. The deceiver may look like a blessing, but Michael sees the rot beneath the surface. He sees what it will cost you, and he loves you enough to risk sounding loud, disruptive, even offensive, if it means breaking your agreement with what was never meant to stay. Type I'm aligned to get the blessing 7878. There's something sacred about this moment. This is not just a message, it's a divine mirror. It reflects the place where your faith has been tested, where your discernment has been dulled, and where your healing has been paused. Michael isn't coming as a preacher, he's coming as a warrior. And warriors don't always speak in gentle tones. Sometimes they yell to pull you out of the fire. This is that moment. This is the fire you didn't know was circling you. It hasn't touched you yet because grace has blocked it. But grace comes with a condition. You must act on the warning. The masked deceiver has studied you. They know how to blend in. But they can't hide from heaven. That's why this warning is loud. That's why Michael sounds the alarm today. Your timeline is too sacred. Your purpose is too big. Your next chapter is too close. Don't trade it for emotional familiarity. Don't exchange it for temporary comfort. When you step away from what feels safe but spiritually toxic, you'll find what's truly secure. Michael will not let the deceiver pass if you stay behind the shield. But you must decide now, not later, not when it's convenient. Now, if this message is piercing your spirit and helping you step into divine truth, consider giving a super chat or super thanks today. Your support of $20 helps us continue creating powerful, prophetic messages like this one. We are grateful for every seed you sow. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You'll receive regular prophetic guidance, exclusive content, and spiritual tools to keep you aligned with your divine path. Type I am obeying to get the blessing 3535. The deceiver doesn't just come in human form. It also whispers through delay. It tells you, there's still time, you can fix it later, you'll know when it's urgent. But that voice is not your friend. That voice is a weapon. It keeps you spinning, questioning, overanalyzing, until your moment expires. Archangel Michael is calling on July 6th because he knows the pattern, and he knows how much it's cost you. The relationships that drained you, the doors you should have closed, the apologies you waited for that never came, all of it built from the bricks of delay. And now the deceiver is using the same script. But Michael has interrupted your delay. Today's message is not convenient, and that's the point. It arrives like lightning, sudden, jarring, undeniable, because your next divine opportunity won't wait for you to feel ready. The deceiver wants you to stall. Heaven wants you to move. You must decide who you believe. The disguised danger you nearly stepped into isn't behind you yet. It's still circling. That's why the angel who leads heaven's armies has stepped forward. His sword does not swing without reason. His voice does not rise without divine permission. If he's shouting now, it means silence will cost you more than discomfort. It will cost you destiny. Delay doesn't just affect your calendar, it affects your covering. Every time you delay obedience, you weaken the frequency heaven uses to communicate with you. What once came clearly now sounds like static. What once hit your spirit now hits your logic. You weren't designed to follow logic alone. You were designed to hear and respond to the divine. But delay has numbed your reception. That's why Michael isn't whispering. He's calling your name with a power that overrides your fear, your doubt, your spiritual fatigue. You've cried out for God to speak louder. Well, this is it. July 6th. The warning is here. Heed it now. Type I am alert to get the blessing 2929. This moment may feel familiar, and that's dangerous. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort can be fatal when discernment is required. The deceiver is counting on you to respond as you always have, slowly, skeptically, safely. But the Spirit of God is urging something else, obedience on impact. You are not too broken to respond. You are not too far to be reached. But you are too called to keep waiting. Heaven doesn't need you perfect. It needs you surrendered. That's why Michael stands ready, not to accuse you, but to activate you. He is heaven's interrupter, and he has chosen today to draw a line in your delay. Don't just hear this. Feel it. The battle isn't against the people who hurt you or the plans that failed. It's against the agreements you've silently made with delay. You said things like maybe next week or after I feel better, but heaven's timetable doesn't shift for your comfort. That doesn't mean God is impatient. It means he's invested. When he sends Michael, it's because the enemy has crossed a line. The deceiver has advanced too far. The risk is no longer emotional. It's spiritual. And if you don't stop the delay now, it becomes agreement. That's how the enemy gets access, not through force, but through neglect. Type I am moving to get blessing 4848. You have the authority to end this cycle. But authority unused is vulnerability accepted. Michael doesn't just fight for you. He fights with you. But only when you respond. He can't guard a gate you refuse to close. He can't rebuke a pattern you still protect. Today is about more than stopping the deceiver. It's about shifting your posture. The delay hath been eating away at your clarity, your energy, your joy. You thought you were waiting on God, but in truth, God was waiting on you. That revelation may sting, but it will also set you free. Because now you know the truth. And the truth, acted on, becomes a sword. Michael doesn't come into your timeline without a reason. If he's here now, it means something is near, something divine or something destructive. Which one manifests depends on what you do next. You've waited long enough. You've delayed healing. You postponed peace. You've kept doors open out of fear of being wrong. But now heaven has drawn the map, and your path is clear. Will you take the step? Will you move before your mind catches up? Will you trust that this law warning is the exact answer your quiet prayers cried out for? Type I am stepping in to get the blessing 1214. You don't see it yet, but Michael does. The moment you hesitate, the enemy builds. Every pause in your spirit becomes an entry point. Every doubt you entertain creates a fracture. This is not about fear, it's about truth. The enemy doesn't need you to rebel, he just needs you to hesitate. He thrives in hesitation, in the limbo between revelation and response. That's why this moment feels so spiritually intense. That's why July 6th isn't passing quietly. You've entered a divine hour where the consequences of delay outweigh the comfort of waiting. And Michael's voice is not a suggestion, it's a call to arms. He isn't asking you to analyze anymore. He isn't waiting for your emotional clarity. He's demanding your spiritual urgency. Because what you don't obey now, you will grieve later. That person you've been thinking about giving another chance. That conversation you're debating whether to start again. That opportunity you know deep down isn't aligned. Those aren't just choices, they're doors. Doors that either let light in or allow darkness to seep through the cracks. And once darkness gains ground, it doesn't retreat easily. Michael sees what's crouching on the other side of your decisions. That's why he's been shouting. That's why heaven is pressing in. Obedience is not a punishment, it's a shield. And disobedience is not just rebellion, it's exposure. You weren't designed to live unprotected. That's why this warning feels different. Because this isn't about being a better person. It's about being a protected vessel. Your disobedience doesn't just impact you. It impacts everything connected to your destiny. Every soul assigned to your voice. Every breakthrough assigned to your timeline. When you choose to ignore heaven's interruption, you delay not only yourself but the healing of others. The cost is never singular. That's why the Archangel's tone is sharp. That's why this message cuts deeper than usual. Type I am covered to get the blessing 6363. Michael does not warn for sport. He warns because danger hath been permitted to move closer. Not to punish you, but to test your discernment. The deceiver is clever. He knows how to twist timing and make urgency feel like anxiety. He'll try to make you second-guess divine insight. But insight without action becomes a curse. You've already been shown enough. The next move isn't to pray for more signs, it's to act on what's already been revealed. You don't need more confirmation, you need more courage. That's what Michael has come to ignite. The courage to do the hard thing before it becomes the irreversible thing. Don't let your comfort talk you out of your covering. Just because you've lived with chaos before doesn't mean you're built to repeat it. Some of you have normalized warfare as your lifestyle. But today's warning isn't just about another spiritual battle. It's about exiting the battlefield altogether. Heaven is trying to lead you out of the cycle, but you keep fighting for the wrong reasons. You're defending pain in the name of loyalty. You're excusing toxicity in the name of love. You're tolerating delay in the name of being patient. But patience without discernment becomes permission for destruction. Type I am awakened to get blessing 4545. You don't need to feel ready, you need to feel responsible. You were chosen not just to survive this season but to shift it. Michael isn't calling you to run away. He's calling you to rise up. This isn't about what you're losing. It's about what you're being preserved for. There is territory you haven't seen yet, blessings that haven't been released, victories that are still waiting in heaven's storehouse, because you haven't turned away from what's blocking them. You've cried, fasted, worshipped, but still felt stuck. That's because prayer doesn't override obedience. You can't outpray what you refuse to walk away from. And now, July 6th stands as a witness. It marks the moment you either step into clarity or stay in confusion. Michael's sword is drawn not to harm you, but to divide you from the thing that's harming you. He wants to cut the soul tie, break the agreement, burn the false bridge, but he can only act when you do. Heaven won't override your will, but it will partner with your surrender. The deceiver is knocking. The mask is slipping. The illusion is cracking. Will you answer the angel's cry or the deceiver's charm? The choice will echo far beyond this moment. Type I am surrendering to get the blessing 9991. You keep telling yourself it's harmless. You say, I'm just checking in, or we're just friends now, or maybe they've changed. But Michael sees what your eyes still refuse to acknowledge. This is not about friendship. This is not about closure. This is a soul tie dressed as sentiment. It's not just emotional. It's spiritual. Every message you send, every memory you replay, every door you leave cracked open is allowing a spirit of delay, deception, and distortion to access your atmosphere. And now, the deceiver doesn't even have to break in. You've left the invitation wide open. This is why your prayers feel heavy, why your peace disappears in their presence, why your clarity fades the moment they enter your thoughts. You think it's confusion, but it's contamination. You are trying to walk in newness while dragging the remnants of a connection that was never meant to last. And the longer you justify it, the deeper the root wraps around your purpose. Michael sees how far it's gone. He sees the invisible cords, emotional, mental, spiritual, that tie you to the very thing you cried to be free from. And now he's come with divine scissors in hand. What he will cut will you keep clinging to. The deceiver's power isn't in strength, it's in subtlety. It speaks your language. It knows what you crave, and tells you you're mature enough to handle the connection now. It reminds you of the good times. It speaks through memories, not miracles. But Michael speaks through truth. And today, the truth is this: that soul tie is your spiritual delay. You are not just emotionally entangled, you are spiritually obstructed. You've outgrown that person, but you haven't outgrown the need for their validation. And as long as you keep reaching for it, your elevation remains suspended in the balance. Type I am free to get the blessing 5656. Let this sink in. What you think is loyalty, heaven sees as bondage. What you label as not letting go too soon, God sees as clinging to what he already removed. Its soul tie is the lock. Obedience is the key. Every time you entertain the idea of going back, even in thought, you step back into alignment with confusion. Michael is not just calling you to cut the tie, he's calling you to shut the door, bury the key, and delete the map. The deceiver isn't showing up for closure, they are showing up to reset the cycle. And if you're not ruthless with your obedience, you'll welcome what you've already been rescued from. This isn't about being harsh, it's about being holy. Heaven isn't trying to make you cold, it's trying to make you clean. You can't be aligned with your future if you're still entangled with your past. You want divine acceleration, but you're dragging spiritual anchors. You want peace, but you keep watering the roots of chaos. That person, that situation, that connection, it was an assignment. But now it's a threat. And if you don't sever it, it will drain you until you have nothing left to give to your calling. Michael isn't just warning you. He's pleading with you. And heaven is backing his urgency. Type I'm breaking ties to get blessing 8080. There is no half-a deliverance. You can't partly walk in freedom. It's all or nothing. You either sever the soul tie and step into divine alignment, or you keep entertaining the enemy and forfeit the covering. Michael has drawn a line in the spirit, and it runs through your heart. He knows the places you've compromised, the parts you've tried to keep private from even God. But nothing is hidden in the spirit realm. The deceiver smells hesitation. It knows if it can keep you emotionally distracted, it doesn't need to fight you directly. And that's exactly what's happening. You've been spiritually distracted by someone you emotionally justified. And now, heaven is saying enough. Enough waiting. Enough wondering. Enough wondering. You cannot walk in this next level of calling with contaminated connections. You cannot access angelic protection while remaining aligned with demonic assignments. You can't invite Michael to shield you while inviting the deceiver to stay. It's time. Not next month. Not after the next conversation. Not after you feel better about it. Now, the sword is raised. The voice is thundering. And the call is clear. Type I am untangled to get the blessing 4343. There comes a moment in every chosen person's journey where the decision is no longer about what's good versus bad, but what's divine versus familiar. You've reached that moment. On July 6, heaven isn't waiting for your emotions to catch up. It's demanding your obedience now. Michael's warning has grown louder not because God is angry with you, but because God sees the delay has become dangerous. The lie you've been entertaining isn't just a distraction. It's a design. Carefully constructed by the enemy, crafted to look safe, innocent, even healing. But beneath the mask, it's poisoning your timeline and siphoning your strength. The deceiver doesn't want your soul all at once. It wants your pace, your clarity, your fire. Little by little. So slowly you don't even notice the shift. But heaven noticed. Michael noticed. And now the warning is no longer symbolic. It's sharp, divine, non-negotiable. You can't walk in the light while entertaining the lie. You can't declare breakthrough while texting your bondage. You can't fast for peace while tolerating the spirit of confusion. And you cannot claim divine covering while shielding the very thing heaven's trying to cut off. Michael's sword is at the root. The question is, will you move out of the way? You've prayed for new doors, but God won't open them until the old ones are slammed shut. Not cracked, not guarded, shut. The lie you keep justifying is standing in the hallway between you and everything you've been promised. That soul tie, that pattern, that delay disguised as patience, that connection dressed up as healing. Michael sees it clearly, and now he's stationed at the entrance of your next season, not to block it from you, but to block you from sabotaging it. He's not being dramatic. He's being divine. Because this time, the cost of compromise won't be tears, it will be territory. Type I am decisive to get the blessing 7272. You think the danger is obvious, but it never is. The deceiver doesn't show up shouting, it shows up soothing. It appeals to your empathy, to your hope, to your maybe this time will be different. It pretends to be peace, but it always costs your power. And while you wrestle with feelings, heaven is watching you drift. Slowly, widely, fatally. Michael's presence in this season isn't symbolic, it's surgical. He's been assigned to protect your spiritual womb from being impregnated with another delay. This isn't just a warning. It's a divine rebuke. Not out of wrath, but out of relentless love. God's love doesn't always feel gentle. Sometimes it arrives as a sword. And that's what today is. A sword slicing between what's real and what's right. Between what's good and what's godly. Between what you want and what you need. You don't need another second chance with someone who was already your distraction. You don't need another conversation with a voice that God already silenced. What you need is holy clarity and the will to act on it. That's where Michael stands now. Right between your reasoning and your revelation. Right between your memory and your mandate. Type I am purified to get blessing 6868. This isn't the time to ask for more signs. The message has been repeated. The prompting has been clear. The consequences have already whispered through your past. You don't need another confirmation. You need confrontation. With yourself. With the lie you've been petting. With the delay you've been dressing up in spiritual language. The enemy has been feeding on your hesitation. But Michael has come to break the cycle. The angel of war isn't sent for casual reminders. He's sent when the battle reaches its tipping point. And beloved, the tipping point is here. You have something to birth, but something toxic has wrapped around the womb. You have places to go, but there's a weight you keep feeding. You have power to release, but you're still plugging into poison. And now, on this appointed day, heaven's most trusted guardian stands between you and the thing you think you can manage but cannot. If you try to reason with it, you will absorb it. If you try to control it, it will consume you. But if you obey, without delay, Michael will sever it. Instantly. Druevu. But heaven requires your yes. Not just your tears. Not just your intentions. Your yes. If this message is piercing your spirit and helping you step into divine truth, consider giving a super chat or super thanks today. Your support of $20 helps us continue creating powerful, prophetic messages like this one. We are grateful for every seed you sow. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You'll receive regular prophetic guidance, exclusive content, and spiritual tools to keep you aligned with your divine path. Type I am cutting ties to get the blessing 1414. There was a time when heaven was quiet, when the warnings came soft, the signs came subtle, and the nudges were gentle. That season has ended. July 6th is not a whisper. It is a divine shout. Heaven's silence was mercy. It gave you space to think, to reflect, to heal. But heaven doesn't stay silent forever. When timing aligns with purpose and purpose intersects with risk, the silence breaks. That's where you are right now. This is not just a shift in energy. It is a movement of angels, a realignment of your life, and a clear directive. Obey or be overtaken. Archangel Michael has waited long enough. Not because he's limited, but because heaven respects your will. Now the timing is too critical to leave you unshaken. The deceiver has studied your rhythm, your cycles, your hesitation. It knows how to wait, how to whisper, how to flatter. But it never expected heaven to interrupt with this kind of force. The enemy counted on your silence. But Michael has broken it. What was once a spiritual stirring is now a divine alarm. You can't dismiss this as just another message. This is your personal extraction. A rescue before a collapse. A command, and not a suggestion. The patterns of hesitation must be broken now. Not just emotionally, but spiritually. You don't need more time to decide. That's a lie the deceiver tells to keep you in limbo. You don't need another conversation to clarify things. You need deliverance. You've been negotiating with delay, entertaining your bondage, defending what's been spiritually devouring you. That is no longer safe. The mercy window is closing. Not to punish you, but to protect you. When Michael steps forward like this, it means heaven is no longer watching silently. It's intervening openly. Type I am obeying now to get the blessing 1117. You can't afford to spiritualize disobedience anymore. You can't keep calling compromise grace. Grace covers weakness, not rebellion. Grace meets you where you are, but obedience moves you where you're supposed to be. Michael isn't standing with you so you can feel inspired. He's standing to provoke your movement. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. The deceiver is banking on your delay. Heaven is demanding your decision. The earth realm may still look normal, but in the spirit realm, the tension is undeniable. Something is trying to slip through the door of your life. Something dark, something disguising, something patient. And this warning is your wall. If you keep the door open, it will enter. Not because you're cursed, but because you allowed it. That's why this message is disruptive. It's why it found you today, not yesterday, not next month, but now. Because the deceiver is on the move, and Michael is already in position. If you align, he blocks it. If you delayed, you'll fight what you weren't meant to face. Your spiritual covering is contingent on your cooperation. You don't get angelic protection while sleeping with spiritual exposure. You don't get divine clarity while refusing divine instruction. The sword is drawn. What side will you stand on? Type I'm under divine instruction to get blessing 7575. Heaven is moving. Whether you move with it is up to you. You've outgrown the lies. You've already seen the consequences. You've tasted the fatigue of being out of alignment. This time, God isn't waiting for your comfort. He's demanding your courage. Archangel Michael has seen enough of your battle. Now he's been dispatched not just to warn you, but to war on your behalf, if you allow it. If you obey now, what was about to hit will be dismantled before it ever reaches your door. But if you hesitate, you will feel the impact that could have been avoided. This is the mercy of movement. Obedience is your lifeline. You don't need to fear, you need to act. That's the truth. The weight pressing on your spirit isn't condemnation. It's the glory of divine urgency. That pressure isn't punishment. It's protection trying to shake you awake. You've seen what happens when you ignore it. You walk the road of regret. This time is different. This time, you have a chance to end it before it begins. Michael's presence is proof that the heavens are still fighting for you. But they will not drag you. You must choose. You must obey. And you must move, now. Type I am moving with heaven to get the blessing 1818. You've been exhausted, and not because life is too heavy, but because you're carrying what heaven told you to release. You're tired because you keep picking up what Michael already tried to remove. Every time you revisit that soul tie, every time you replay that lie, every time you justify that cycle, you reopen a gate that was divinely closed. You weren't created to fight everything. Some battles only exist because you keep feeding them. And that's why the spiritual warfare you felt lately has been so loud. You're not fighting demons assigned to destroy you. You're battling shadows you refuse to evict. Archangel Michael has watched you bleed in battles you were never meant to enter. Not because you're weak, but because you keep confusing spiritual loyalty with emotional dependency. Let that truth settle. You're not obligated to keep what God removed. You're not bound to defend what heaven has already deemed unclean. You don't owe anyone your calling. And yet, the deceiver has convinced you that turning away is betrayal. It's not. It's deliverance. You are not betraying love. You are rejecting manipulation. You are not abandoning people. You are aligning with purpose. Heaven is not asking for your explanation. It's asking for your execution of obedience. If you're honest, the deception felt like love. The attention felt like affirmation. The familiar rhythm felt like closure. But Michael sees beyond emotion. He sees the spirit behind the smile, the motive behind the message, the destruction wrapped in that second chance. What you call connection is a spiritual contract. And every time you respond, you sign it again. That's why the fatigue returns. That's why the peace lifts. That's why your discernment dulls the moment you entertain them. You think it's a test, but it's a trap. And today, July 6th, the heavens are giving you your final chance to walk away from it clean. I'm disconnecting to get the blessing 9,999. Michael doesn't fight for your attention. He's too strategic for that. He fights for your protection. And when he shows up, it's because the battle has escalated to the point where delay becomes deadly. Not physically, but spiritually. There are things heaven intended for you to birth in this season. Revelations, assignments, alignments, and they are now delayed because of what you're still entertaining. You can't move forward while dragging spiritual corpses behind you. You can't ascend while staying tethered to the past. This isn't just about moving on. It's about spiritual jurisdiction. You're being summoned to a new realm, and the gate won't open until your soul is clean. You've been trying to negotiate with what heaven already cursed. You've been trying to keep the good parts of a connection while discarding the bad. But you can't separate poison from the cup once you swallowed it. You can't surgically remove darkness from a soul tie. You must sever it completely. Michael's sword isn't for trimming, it's for dividing. That's why the voice is sharp. That's why this moment feels heavy. This is your spiritual operation. And the anesthetic is obedience. The quicker you respond, the cleaner the cut. The longer you wait, the more painful the extraction. I am ready to be severed to get blessing 2121. You've asked why the peace hasn't lasted. You've asked why your prayers feel blocked. You've asked why you keep falling back into old habits. The answer is not mystery. It's maintenance. You haven't maintained your freedom. You've tasted deliverance but kept the door open. You've declared healing while scrolling through poison. You fasted for breakthrough while staying emotionally entangled with the very thing that keeps you bound. And now, heaven has drawn a hard line. July 6th is not just a day. It's a deadline. Not for punishment, but for a positioning. You don't have time to argue with your soul anymore. You don't have space to debate your intuition. What you feel deep down is correct. That resistance in your chest is real. That pressure behind your eyes is the clash of two kingdoms, one calling you forward, the other seducing you back. And Michael is not neutral in this war. He's on the side of your future, but he can only shield what you release. He cannot defend what you continue to entertain. You've seen the consequences before. Don't repeat them now. Not this time. Not when heaven is this close. Type I am breaking free to get the blessing 1212. What begins as a door, unattended, unsealed, doesn't stay a door. It turns into a portal. Not a metaphor, not a poetic image, but a real spiritual breach. That's what Michael sees when he looks into your atmosphere right now. Not just unfinished business, but an open gateway. And on the other side of that breach, darkness waits. Not loud, not obvious, just patient. Because darkness doesn't need permission when the door is left ajar. That message you haven't deleted. That relationship you haven't defined. That harmless thought you still nurse in silence. These are the hinges swinging wide into realms you don't fully understand. Michael is not simply trying to get your attention. That time has passed. He is shouting because the breach has reached a critical state. The longer it stays open, the more it feeds. Spiritual decay doesn't happen in storms. It happens in stillness. In the silence of compromise. In the quiet of just one more time. And what you don't confront now will begin to consume later. The deceiver knows this. It knows the human heart longs for what's unfinished, what's unresolved. It knows how to wrap temptation in tenderness, how to make compromise look like comfort. But heaven sees it clearly. Michael sees it entirely. You weren't meant to carry this. You weren't meant to discern this on your own. That's why the angel of truth has come with the force of heaven behind him. But even he can't override your will. He won't slam the door if you're still trying to keep a hand on the frame. And that's the test right now. Can you walk away from what once made you feel alive but now drains your breath? Can you trust that letting go won't destroy you, but will actually secure you? Because if you don't close the door, the portal stays open. And open portals attract invasion. Type I am closing it to get the blessing 4040. You've heard it whispered in your spirit. This isn't safe anymore. That voice wasn't paranoia. It wasn't overthinking. It was Michael. It was the Holy Spirit using your unease as a compass. You may have mistaken it for doubt. You may have labeled it as fear. But it was neither. It was divine discernment. And now it has evolved into urgency. You don't just feel strange around them anymore. You feel drained. You don't just feel unsure, you feel spiritually foggy. That's not your imagination. That's evidence of a leak. Something dark hath been pulling on your energy, your joy, your vision. And it's been doing so legally, because the door has been left cracked. The enemy doesn't need an invitation when your boundaries are inconsistent. It thrives in uncertainty. That's why Michael is not asking for your reflection. He's commanding your redirection. You're being called to slam the door shut, bolt it, seal it in prayer, and guard it with fire. Or maybe a more second looks, a more spiritual education. This is the part where you grow ruthless with your obedience. Because what's on the other side of that portal is not neutral. It's been watching, waiting. And every moment you hesitate, it moves closer. Not in body, but in influence. And that's even more dangerous. Type I am sealing the breach to get blessing 3939. If you could see what Michael sees in the spirit, you wouldn't question another step. You'd fall to your knees in immediate repentance, not out of shame, but out of shock. Because the very thing you're tempted to revisit has grown teeth. It's no longer the soft memory you cherished. It's a spiritual parasite, cloaked in your past, ready to consume your future. And yet, heaven is still extending mercy. This message didn't arrive too late. It came right before the point of no return. That's the goodness of God. That's the mercy of Michael. That's the weight of July 6th. And now it's up to you. The door won't close itself. The portal won't shut just because you feel convicted. It must be sealed with action. Decisive, immediate, uncompromising. That means cutting off access. That means deleting, blocking, walking away, and not turning back. That means guarding your atmosphere like your life depends on it, because spiritually, it does. This isn't fear. This is wisdom. This is a final warning before the breach becomes a gateway of warfare that could have been avoided. Michael stands ready. Heaven stands open. But the door must be shut by you. If this message is piercing your spirit and helping you step into divine truth, consider giving a super chat or super thanks today. Your support of $20 helps us continue creating powerful, prophetic messages like this one. We are grateful for every seed you sow. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You'll receive regular prophetic guidance, exclusive content, and spiritual tools to keep you aligned with your divine path. Type I am shutting it down to get the blessing 5757. Some doors must be closed with finality, but others must be burned. Because if you leave even a trail of breadcrumbs, the deceiver will find a way back. And if you keep the bridge intact, your soul will consider returning every time your emotions get loud. That's the cycle Michael is trying to end. This is no longer about resisting temptation. It's about destroying the path it uses to reach you. You shut doors before, only to reopen them under a different name, a softer excuse, or a more polished version of the past. But this time must be different. This time, it must be irreversible. You don't just need boundaries. You need obliteration. Not out of hatred, but out of protection. Because anything you leave standing can be used as a monument to remind you of the lie. The bridge back to your delay, your soul tie, your disguised deceiver. That bridge must be engulfed in divine fire. That's why Michael isn't just standing in front of the door anymore. He's standing with flames in his eyes. Heaven is ready to torch everything that keeps trying to drag you back. But the fire only falls when you permit it. If you still romanticize the journey, you'll hesitate to light the match. And that hesitation will cost you more than just time. It will cost you trajectory. You may still get there eventually, but the road will be longer, heavier, and littered with battles you were never meant to face. As the Bercy in this moment, Michael isn't just pointing to what you must leave. He's offering you a quicker route. But the shortcut requires sacrifice. The bridge feels like comfort, like history, like identity. But what feels like safety is really your spiritual stall. You've been cycling around the same battlefield, praying for elevation while dragging chains of nostalgia. Now the sword of heaven has touched the ground. Burn it all. Type I am burning the bridge to get the blessing 6369. You've already proven your loyalty. You've already endured long enough. You've forgiven, extended grace, offered understanding. This isn't about you being unloving. This is about you being unwilling to be manipulated any longer. There's a sacred line between compassion and codependency, and you've danced on that line for far too long. Heaven isn't calling you to be bitter. It's calling you to be clean. And cleanliness requires combustion, not out of vengeance, but out of sanctification. The bridge is where the deceiver stands, calling your name in the voice of someone you once cared for. But the one speaking isn't who they used to be. It's who they serve now. Every conversation reopens your heart. Every flash of memory softens your resistance. That's why the bridge must go. No rope left dangling. No trace left standing. When fire falls from heaven, it doesn't ask for your comfort. It demands your cooperation. The flame won't reach what you're still protecting. And that's the test right now. Are you willing to let heaven destroy what you've been emotionally defending? Can you release even the last memory? Can you surrender the idea of what could have been to embrace what must be? Because what must be is holy, healed, and hidden in the protection of obedience. Type I am releasing the past to get blessing 4747. The bridge is more than a memory. It's a magnet. As long as it exists, your soul will feel its pull. You'll have good days, strong days, focused days, and then one random moment will come, and the deceiver will speak through the bridge. It'll call to your loneliness. It'll play the soundtrack of unfinished business. But that's not business, it's bondage. And Michael has seen the spirit behind it. He's seen how it waits for your weakest moment, then wraps itself in old language and slides back in. That's why the fire must be total. That's why this act of obedience is violent in the spirit. This isn't about just moving on. This is about severing access. You can't afford to leave doors unlocked in the next season. Too much is at stake. Too many are depending on your obedience. Your voice is needed. Your calling is under demand. Your alignment is non-negotiable. That bridge, no matter how familiar, is the delay. That is the portal. It is the seduction. And heaven has authorized its destruction. But you must say yes. Not with words, but with surrender. Burn the memory. Burn the number. Burn the excuse. Light the match. Step back. Let Michael do the rest. Type I'm fireproof to get the blessing 8882. You've cried. You've prayed. You worship through the pain. But tears don't close doors. Emotions don't burn bridges. Only obedience has the power to sever what the enemy constructed. And in the spirit realm, obedience speaks louder than declarations. Demons aren't intimidated by your good intentions. They respond to alignment. They flee not when you feel strong, but when you submit fully. That's why Archangel Michael hasn't left your side. He knows the spiritual transaction isn't complete until your action matches your revelation. You've heard the call. You sense the urgency. Now heaven waits to witness your movement. This is not about performance. It's about posture. The posture of a surrendered heart, one that doesn't flinch when fire is commanded. You don't have to feel brave to be obedient. You just have to move. Because in the realm you're called to operate, obedience is currency. Every time you delay, you forfeit territory. Every time you justify, you surrender ground. The enemy only respects spiritual authority. And authority only rises from sacrifice. That's why the path forward isn't built with comfort. It's paved in consecration. And heaven has already laid the foundation. All that's left is your step. Michael has been clearing the way. Not just protecting you from attacks, but dismantling the snares ahead. But he cannot remove what you defend. And right now, what you're emotionally attached to may be the very thing spiritually designed to destroy you. The bridge must be burned. The portal must be sealed. But more importantly, the alignment must be chosen. You are not powerless. You are not confused. You are not stuck. You are standing at the edge of destiny, and heaven is shouting louder than ever, obey and live. Type I am fully aligned to get the blessing 7773. This is your moment of transaction. Not with people, not with feelings, but with God. Heaven doesn't negotiate with half-hearted faith. You don't have to be perfect, but you must be decisive. The angels don't respond to maybe. They don't move for almost. They move for obedience. The realm you're stepping into requires clarity, not confusion. That's why this moment is piercing your soul. It's demanding a severing of what once soothed you but now sabotages you. The enemy has used your uncertainty as a foothold. Now it's time to evict it, by aligning your will with the will of the Father. Michael's sword isn't symbolic, it's surgical. He hath been sent not just to guard you but to separate you, to sever soul from soul tie, a divide assignment from attachment, a free calling from counterfeits. But this angelic work requires permission. He does not move where you protect. He does not swing where you negotiate. That's why the resistance has felt so heavy. It's not warfare over your failure, but warfare over your indecision. But even that battle ends today. If you choose to obey fully, without dragging old pieces into new territory, you will see doors swing open that you've been knocking on for years. Type I am uncompromised to get blessing 2323. Let this part settle deeply. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. Heaven doesn't raise its voice to condemn you. It raises its voice when time is urgent, when exposure is too close, when delay becomes dangerous. That's why today's call burns hotter than any before. Because the time is short. The next move is critical. And what awaits you on the other side of obedience is not just peace, it's power. Authority you've only tasted in glimpses. Insight you've only seen in flashes. But it will not be given while your atmosphere is contaminated by compromise. Obedience doesn't just close the door. It locks it with spiritual authority. It doesn't just burn the bridge. It lays holy ground where the bridge once stood. You don't just escape, you elevate. And when you elevate, what once tempted you cannot reach you. That's what Michael is trying to usher you into. A realm where the deceiver can no longer follow. Where the ties no longer pull. Where your clarity is no longer distorted. But you must act now. Not tomorrow. Not when it's easy. Now. Because now is the only time the spirit realm honors. Type I am submitted to get the blessing 9995. The deceiver's greatest weapon isn't the lie, it's the memory. Because it knows the version of you that formed the soul tie isn't the version of you standing here now. But it hopes you don't realize that. It hopes you still see yourself through the eyes of the past, fragile, unsure, desperate for connection, afraid of rejection. But that person is gone. You're not broken anymore, you're breaking cycles. You're not lost anymore. You're finding alignment. You're not reaching back. You're rising forward. The deceiver only has influence if you still identify with the self that bonded with the counterfeit. Michael sees who you really are, not who you pretend to be, not who people think you are, but who heaven designed you to become. And that version, the awakened, aligned, unshakable version, is incompatible with old ties. The frequency of your calling no longer resonates with deception. That's why it feels so heavy to entertain the connection. That's why your peace dies the moment you re-engage. The soul tie was never about love. It was about lowering your standard to survive a season. But that season has expired. And with it, the need for emotional maintenance has been replaced with a demand for spiritual momentum. You don't have to apologize for outgrowing a version of yourself that was built on survival. You were never meant to stay in that emotional wilderness. But the enemy keeps using guilt like a leash, trying to drag you back to a version of your identity that no longer fits. That's the strategy, convince you that growth is betrayal. But Michael sees through it. He knows what's waiting on the other side of your obedience. And he's not here to remind you of your past. He's here to escort you into the version of your destiny that cannot coexist with any form of deception. Type I am evolved to get the blessing 4844. Every attempt to rekindle the old tie has felt off, and there's a reason. Your spirit has already been rewired. You no longer operate in the same frequency. The conversations don't hit the same. The connection feels unnatural. That's not coldness. It's confirmation. The transformation already happened in you, even if you haven't announced it yet. Heaven has already shifted your code. The Holy Spirit already updated your assignment. What you're feeling is the tension between identity and inheritance. One wants you to stay familiar. The other is calling you into favor. And favor will not follow what you won't release. Michael isn't guarding your past. He's guarding your future. And he knows that if you keep looking backward, you'll miss what's opening ahead. That's why the sword remains drawn. Not to fight for the old, but to cut anything that dares follow you into the new. But your agreement is required. He can't defend you from what you cling to. The bridge is burned. The door is shut. But if you keep calling yourself back to what God has called you out of, you'll find yourself spiritually paralyzed, alive, but not advancing. That's not God's plan. And it's not Michael's mission. Their will is your movement. Type I am transformed to get blessing 3131. It's time to give yourself permission to change. Not because you're being proud, but because you're finally being purified. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to outgrow people, patterns, perspectives. Your healing is not a betrayal. Your alignment is not arrogance. Your deliverance is not desertion. Heaven is validating what your soul already knows. You are not who you were when the tie was formed. And now, because of that truth, you must stop living like you are. This is where the warfare breaks. This is where the tie finishes unraveling. This is where your forward becomes unstoppable. Michael is clearing your path, but only you can step into it. And no one can do this for you. You've been given authority over your own doors. You've been given access to a divine exit. Now you must walk through it. Not with fear, not with mourning, but with fire. And that fire is not meant to consume you. It's meant to confirm you. You are chosen. You are rising. You are released. Let the old bury and die. Let the false connection go. And let your true identity lead you home. Type I am stepping forward to get the blessing 2525. This is the moment everything shifts. Not because the pain disappeared, but because you finally decided to honor what heaven has revealed. You've heard Michael's voice echo through every warning. You stood at the edge of deceit long enough. But now, the line has been drawn. And this time, you don't cross it with hesitation. You cross it with holy conviction. The soul tie is finished. The door is shut. The bridge is burned. You no longer walk in circles. You rise in straight lines. Today is not about forgetting what was. It's about refusing to return to what almost destroyed you. This isn't just an ending. It's a coronation. The heaviness you've carried wasn't punishment. It was resistance to what your spirit already knew. But now, that resistance is gone. You obeyed. You've released. And because of that, heaven's favor will fall in places that once held famine. The clarity will sharpen. The peace will stay. And the presence of God will fill every void that used to ache for validation. You've been tested, and you passed. Not because you were perfect, but because you finally surrendered. Michael lowers his sword now, not because the battle is over, but because the assignment has shifted. You are no longer the one being warned. You're the one being positioned. And from this place forward, discernment will come quicker. Your yes will carry power, and your no will carry authority. You won't need to defend your distance or explain your elevation. Heaven is your witness, and hell is already defeated. What once tempted you will no longer reach you, not because it changed, but because you did. So take a deep breath. Let the dust settle. Don't grieve the loss of what God never wrote. Don't romanticize the pain. Don't revisit the grave. What was buried today will not resurrect tomorrow. You've been pulled out. Now stay out. Don't just walk away. Walk away with joy. Walk away with fire in your bones. Walk away like someone who knows they are backed by angels. Because you are. You're not alone. You're not unstable. You're not unsure. You are chosen. You are covered. You are whole. If this message is piercing your spirit and helping you step into divine truth, consider giving a super chat or super thanks today. Your support of $20 helps us continue creating powerful, prophetic messages like this one. We are grateful for every seed you sow. Also, if you'd like to support what we do, you can make a difference by donating via PayPal using the support here link in the description of this video. Every contribution helps us keep creating and sharing more with you. And be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. You'll receive regular prophetic guidance, exclusive content, and spiritual tools to keep you aligned with your divine path. Type I am free forever to get the blessing 1219.